As you guys can see, I have a very basic files, nothing inside of it. We're gonna try to see if we can create our own function right there. Now, before we start, I'm just gonna go ahead and do something real quick just to avoid having a lot of console log. And I'm gonna create a function called moving forward. And this function itself, it's just gonna take one param, which we're just gonna go ahead and log this one here. And we're just gonna log this function like that. Now, when we go ahead and call this function is actually expecting us to pass some sort of argument inside of it. I'm gonna go ahead and pass it 20. Now, this is what this is doing. The 20 itself is the value of a, aka this 20, the argument of 20 is the value of a. And if we call this function again with different value, for example 40, this 40 is still considered as the value of a because this is considered as the first param and this is considered as the first argument that's being passed and so on. And the only thing that we're doing with this value, we are logging them down here. And the reason we are logging a because a itself represent whatever first value that's being passed down here. Let's actually log this down to see what we see as the result. And as you guys can see, I got 20 first time and second time I got 40, and this is still being logged whatever a hold as the value. Cool. Now, the bottom line is whatever you pass as the first argument is gonna be representing whatever the first param is. What if we pass a callback, which is a function? Well, this function now is equal to the value of a, and we're gonna call it multiple times. And as you guys can see, the a still hold the value of whatever the first param is. For example, the first param is now a function, and what do we do with a function? We execute a function. If a is a function, then we execute a function like this with parentheses. Cool. Now, when the function execute, that means whatever is inside this function is going to be fired. And where is that function? This is the function. Whatever is inside of it is going to fire. And in our case, I'm just gonna log something like, something like test. And here I'm gonna log again something very same, and I can just say test one. So I pass it to callback, and that's the second one, but a still remain the value of whatever callback that we passed. And as we executing this callback here, this is saying whatever is inside a callback, it's going to fire. In this case, it has to log console log test, and whatever is inside the callback has to fire. In this case, it's gonna log test one. Let's see what we see down the console. And ladies and gentlemen, as you guys can see, I'm seeing something like test and test one as we expected. Now, the cool thing about passing a callback is you have the control of when do you want it to execute. For example, if I can say welcome here as the first log that I'm logging, and then after this first log, this is when that I execute my callback, which means whatever the thing that the callback is doing behind the scene, it's gonna execute after this log is being fired. Now, if we run this program, every single time every one of the callback runs, this lines of code is going to execute first, and then we fire our callback. Let's save this and see what happened. And as you guys can see, it goes welcome first, and then the first callback execute, which is this first callback, and then it goes again, execute welcome, and then the second callback is being executed. So the bottom line is a callback is just a function as the argument that you got the control over it as a param, and you can decide of where for you to call this callback as needed.